What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Talking Sports podcast right here on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. It's another jam-packed episode. It's been a jam-packed couple of episodes because, obviously, you guys know by now, the NFL playoffs are in full swing at the moment. We're actually getting closer to the Super Bowl than we are to the beginning of the NFL playoffs. So, but obviously by clicking on this episode, if you're on YouTube, we appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. We, of course, appreciate it. We'll be breaking down the AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then the NFC Championship game between the Lions and the 49ers. But before we do that, Jared, how are we doing, my man? And where can everyone follow us on social media?
Doing good. And you kind of just mentioned it. I didn't really I haven't really thought about how fast the NFL playoffs go by, but it's pretty fast. And like Pete mentioned, on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Talking Sports PD, those are our socials. We post a lot of content on those platforms, more than just the YouTube videos. So hit us up with a follow at Talking Sports PD, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
And as always, we are sponsored, and you guys can obviously see on the top of the screen. But if you're listening on audio, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys use code TSP for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Starting at $10, up to $100. Use code TSP. Go on UnderdogFantasy.com. Link is in the description on all platforms. So make sure you guys check that out. Okay, without further ado, so I kind of said that right. We got a lot to talk about. We got two games to talk about, and we want to give you as much information as possible within not keeping you guys here for an hour because we know you guys got lives to go back to. Maybe some of you don't, but maybe some of you do. Chiefs at Ravens, the 3-seed Chiefs and the Patrick Mahomes going into Baltimore, taking on the 1-seed Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. At the moment on Wednesday night, you guys will be listening to this Thursday morning and beyond, but on Wednesday night, currently the Baltimore Ravens are -3.5. Jared, your initial thoughts on this pretty incredible matchup we got?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup. I'll kick it off by giving my takeaways. First, I'll talk about the Ravens. They came out and played last game against the Texans. Mm-hmm. They showed that they're the 1 seed. 34-10 against the Texans. And, like me and you, we thought Stroud, put up a battle. Mm-hmm. And that Ravens defense did not let them run the ball, which they're not known for doing, but they just shut them down rushing. And so after that game, my main takeaway after watching the Chiefs play against the Bills was the Bills ran the ball against the Chiefs, and that D-line just started getting thrown apart. So that's one big matchup. The Chiefs D-line just did not look good against the Bills, even though they got the win. Did not look good, and they're coming in and playing the Baltimore Ravens, who the quarterback can run for 100 yards like he did last game, and they got mostly two backs who ran for 60 and 40 yards, ran for 229 yards against the Texans. So that Chiefs D-line is going to be a problem and a question mark heading into this game. And then on the other side, the Chiefs secondary did really well against, the Josh Allen-led Bills, I'd say. Didn't let Stephon Diggs take over the game, and no receiver got over 50 yards. So props to that secondary, but that rushing defense could have lost them that game. So those are Lamar Jackson's not in his past, not known for throwing the ball for 300 yards each game or 250 yards plus each game, nor does he have to. So can you disrupt the passing offense enough in terms of where they can't just run the ball all the time? Like, can you stop the run enough to make them throw the ball? I think defensively, it comes down to the Chiefs defense. I think that's going to be the key factor in this game, the Chiefs defense.
You talked about the Chiefs defense. I want to mention maybe the Ravens defense because, look, you and I watched the Houston Texans-Ravens matchup together. And, look, it was 10-10 at half due to a special teams mishap by the Ravens and a great play by Steven Sims on the Texans taking a punt return for a touchdown. But in the second half, the Houston Texans had nothing short of no offense in that game, and they kind of came back down to earth. Which I get. You expect the Ravens were almost double-digit point favorites. Like, they were heavily favored in that game. They were expected to win, and they took care of business in that second half. But this is also the fault of the Texans going back to the run over and over again when it was clearly not working and not changing it up. So that's on the Texans as well. But that Ravens defense is freaking scary, dude. Like, that Ravens defense is ferocious. And I thought, I like that matchup between the Ravens defense and the Chiefs offense is going to be interesting, right? Like, I thought the Chiefs offense had one of their better games of this season against the Bills. And obviously Patrick Mahomes plays his best, as we know, in the postseason. And that's why it's always hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I thought in that Chiefs game, they were able to dictate the ground game. Both teams ran the ball well, but the Bills' defensive line got bullied, right? The Bills had no answer for getting after Patrick Mahomes and no answer for stopping Isaiah Pacheco, right?
Yeah.
So you talking about that Chiefs defensive line, right? Didn't stop the run well against the Bills. And I would argue that the Ravens are a better running offense than the Bills. And obviously they couldn't slow down Josh Allen, who's a really good running quarterback. Lamar Jackson's a completely different style of running quarterback. Allen obviously uses his power. Lamar uses his speed and his agility. They're two different types of styles, both really hard to stop. But the Chiefs offensive line, I think, is going to be a key factor because this is any quarterback, but especially Patrick Mahomes. He had endless time to move around in the pocket, to step up, go through his progressions. It doesn't really matter if Baltimore has a ferocious defense if they can't go get Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, that's a key. It's always a key for the Chiefs. And I do think the Ravens are one of the teams, maybe outside them and the 49ers, are probably the two best teams to go get Patrick Mahomes, which is kind of cool because obviously the Chiefs could see the 49ers in the Super Bowl, depending on matchups here. But I would like to see how the Ravens defense goes against this Chiefs offensive line. I thought the Chiefs played a really good game. I didn't think the Chiefs played a really good game. Obviously, the Bills make a play or two, and we're talking about a different matchup here. But that's how close these playoff games are when you have two of these elite quarterbacks. I expect a very similar matchup. I think one thing, I do think the Chiefs are a little bit more prepared. They just played that type of style of game where you're not going to have a ton of possessions, right? Each team's going to want to dictate the time of possession. The Bills obviously dictated the time of possession and they lost, right? So it's interesting. If you go back and look at the stats, the Bills won in most statistical categories. Chiefs win the game. I want to see how the Ravens it's a step up in class, right? Like, you're not having a rookie quarterback on the other side. You're not having a rookie head coach on the other side. You have Andy Reid and you have Patrick Mahomes. And they also need to find an answer for Travis Kelce. One final thing is, unless AJ Klein's a member of the Baltimore Ravens, Patrick Queen or Roquan Smith is going to be on Travis Kelce. So I think they should do a little bit better than the Bills, unless they have AJ Klein on Travis Kelce. But I'm excited to see how the O-line kind of holds up against this Ravens defense that just completely swarmed CJ Stroud.
Yeah. And the offensive line for the Chiefs, definitely. But also, like, Patrick Mahomes is also just a really hard quarterback to sack. You saw him, like, flick it with his left hand. He'll get the ball out. He doesn't hold it too long, and he doesn't give you enough time to sack him. But like you said, yes, the Ravens defense could certainly get to him and cause chaos. But, like, another thing, they relied very heavily, like the Chiefs, relied very heavily on their running game that game. I felt like Mahomes only threw for 215 yards. He never, like, took over the game, I'd say. And Kelce, great game, 75 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. But, like, this is, like we mentioned in the last podcast, this is like a different Chiefs team. Whereas if the Ravens D-line comes out to play and doesn't allow them to run the ball, like, do you think this offense, like, passing wise, like, can do what we've seen the Chiefs do in the past? Like, I don't think so. Like,
well, they're like, Valdez-Scantling made a great play, which we haven't seen all year, right? Like,
Valdez-Scantling, I haven't seen him catch a ball in 5 weeks. You know?
I do think the Chiefs. I do think the Ravens defense at the linebacking core, which is where the Bills were very injured last week, right? So the Bills couldn't stop the run, right? They couldn't stop Isaiah Pacheco, right? Which kind of lets Mahomes kind of do his thing, kind of dictate the offense, right? The Ravens have a different linebacking core. The Bills had A.J. Klein and Terrell Dodson at linebackers due to injuries. The Ravens have Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. Obviously, that's a huge step up in talent and quality and all that kind of thing, right? So if you're the Ravens, I think if you let the Chiefs run the ball efficiently, you are going to lose this game. If you can slow down Isaiah Pacheco, this is not the same style of offense where they're just going to beat you for 300 plus yards, right? Like Mahomes can do that at times, 100%, right? Like if the last possession is in the Chiefs and they got to go win the game, I'll bet the Chiefs offense over the Ravens defense to go win the game. Like I'll do that. The thing is, I do think the Ravens are better equipped to stop the run than the Bills were. And I think one of the reasons the Chiefs ended up winning was because they ran the ball so well against the Bills. But yeah, look, I don't know if they have the weapons, the Chiefs. I hate saying this because then I'm like, okay, the Chiefs win.
It more for like, not that I don't think Mahomes could sling the ball and, like you said, get over 300, 325 yards. It's just they don't have the weapons. Like Rashee Rice, towards the end, he was kind of playing on the limp. I mean, he's their second best receiver. Best receiver, second best
target.
You know what I mean? Yeah, target.
Yeah, I got you.
And he had 4 receptions. I mean, it was just Kelce, and then no one else. Besides, like you said, Valdez-Scantling showed up, but he only had 2 catches for 62 yards. Like that was just shows you just one big play, or maybe 2 once in a while, once in a blue moon. Like they don't have that reliable second receiver, and that's why I don't think like they could come out. No one's getting open besides maybe Kelce once in a while, and you can see he's starting to age. Like he's not open every play like he always is, you know?
Yeah, and like I just said, they won't have.
They got Patrick Queen and
look if they won't have AJ Klein or Terrell Dodson or Dorian Williams who are backups just because of injuries on Travis Kelce, right? Like and look, they'll have Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. It's an obviously step up in defensive ability in the middle of the field. But yeah, look, Chiefs defense wise, let's see how their D line plays. Look, the Ravens obviously have a different style of running the ball. It's a little more, it's different, I would say, than the Bills. That's not the right term where I was going there.
There's so many
different
option runs within a
play. They don't have I don't think they have a better running back than James Cook on their team.
No.
But they have different dimensions.
Better than Gus Edwards.
Yeah, but they have different dimensions. Dalvin Cook, they switch it up. They give you different looks. They put a fullback in there in Rashard. They have obviously Lamar with designed runs. And something that I think drove you and I nuts because we were rooting for the Texans based off because we took the Texans spread in our pick'em. Drove us nuts is that they didn't have a linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the field at times. There was too many times where the Texans went to man coverage and had no quarterback spy. And I'm going to be sorry with you. I'm going to say this really quickly here. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you cannot do that. Because if Lamar throws for over 300 yards and he just beats you in the air, you know what? Credit to Lamar. He put an absolute MVP level performance. You can't sit back there and play man coverage and let Lamar just sprint for 30, 40 plus yards, because when he does that, it just makes that offense so much easier. So you have to, obviously he's going to get his. If you're the Chiefs and you're a Chiefs fan, you cannot see Lamar just run up the middle and there'd be no one in sight at the linebacker position, because we saw that a handful of times with the Texans.
I'll go quickly too. The only very tricky part with that is I agree. I thought you were going to bring up the offensive line penalties every time they got over the 50.
Oh yeah. Also, don't do that if you're the Chiefs.
But with like Lamar, because he's such a good runner, you kind of forced to play man, because the Ravens are also like we know we're going to run the ball, but we're still going to run the ball different ways. So you kind of want to send kind of a blitz on running downs. And so that's why you're not really playing zone. But then, if you don't get the Lamar within 3 seconds, bang, bang, up the middle. Like, it's just so annoying and frustrating watching this Ravens if you're not cheering for them. But yeah, I just don't think – we saw Josh Allen, he's a great runner. He's top 3, top 2 in the league. But, 72 yards, they couldn't even stop Josh Allen. And Lamar, not saying he's not as
He's a different style of running. It's
different style of running, and like he's very good. Like he's so quick, he's so agile. You let him in open space, it's scary. So it's just I don't know if the Chiefs defense are up for this task. It's tough.
Okay. Chiefs, Ravens, currently on Wednesday night. The Ravens are minus three. Yeah, Ravens are minus 3.5. Comment down below who you guys got. You got the Ravens or the Chiefs? JR, I'm going to start with you. Chiefs, Ravens, what do we like straight up?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be cheering for the Chiefs. I've just always had a liking for them with Mahomes and Reed, but I just can't see them. I just feel like they're a different team. They're kind of scrambling, like they're getting through. They're just getting through these games, but they're not like the Chiefs that are like, okay, they're gonna blow out a team here. They're gonna win. They're just getting through with some wins. I think Ravens are just the better team. It's gonna be so hard to stop that run. And their defense is so good. I'm gonna have to go Ravens here.
I think this game is very similar to the Bills and the Chiefs. I think I think it's a game of possession, and
I think the Bills are just so similar to the Chiefs in ways.
Okay.
The Ravens are just totally different. Like,
that's fair. What I mean by that, and not maybe not style of play, I mean the type of game where you think it's going to be 30 plus, but it's not 30 plus because just both of these teams know Harbaugh and Reed know how important each possession is, and they want to control the clock. The Bills controlled the clock against the Chiefs. Go back and look at the time. The Bills controlled the clock. I think Baltimore set up to do that perfectly again. I think this time, look, the Bills had a chance to go win it, and they didn't. I think the Ravens have a chance at the end to go win it, and I think they do win it. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens this week. I think whoever gets the ball last wins. It feels like that type of game, 27-24, 24-21, whatever. It's that type of game, but I like Baltimore. I don't know if KC can stop Lamar running. It's always tough to bet against Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. The one caveat, if you lose to Josh Allen the next round, you end up losing. So it's a weird thing. Every time he's lost in the playoffs, the team that beat him loses in the next round. If it's either the Super Bowl or if it's the AFC Championship game. So I don't know. It's just a weird random stat that has nothing to do with anything, but it's just random.
I think the Ravens are just going to come out and punch them in the mouth early. That's how I feel. And then Chiefs are going to play catch up all the rest.
To be honest, though, the Ravens need to start better than they did against the Texans.
Yeah.
There's no second half wake up because if you wake up in the second half, you're over. It's done.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs, even though their offense hasn't been great, it's Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. You kind of want to go like what the Bills did until the end, go punch for punch, and vice versa. You got to go punch for punch with these type of teams. Okay. Yeah. Moving on, and before we get into our next game, as always, drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Okay, the second of our Sunday doubleheader, the NFC Championship game, the 3-seed Lions traveling to San Francisco to take on the 1-seed 49ers. At the moment, on Wednesday night, the San Francisco 49ers are 7-point favorites. Jer, initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, we watched the Packers game together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it kind of like went the script that we said this is how the Packers have a chance to win, and that's kind of the way it went. Making Purdy make plays. He did end up making plays towards the end, but they had a chance to tie, right? Or
Green Bay was down 3, and then, Jordan.
Okay, it's coming back to me now. Jordan Love pick, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a chance to possibly win the game, tie it, go to OT. But yeah, I think with the Ravens, like you mentioned, like they got to come out quicker next game. Same thing with the 49ers. I think it might have been like, that bye fluke. They haven't played in a little bit, even though it's like 2 weeks, but around 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But yeah, they got to come out better against the Lions. Packers, they let Aaron Jones run for 100 yards, and their just defense didn't look what we've seen the 49ers defense to be with all those names on there. Like we've said, a lot of people would say they're the best defense in the league. Didn't really show it against the Packers. And then I'll go to the Lions. I've been saying it like, what you're getting out of the Lions. Sometimes they play worse than expected throughout the season, but like the Lions aren't going to like outshine and just go like way beyond what they're expected. Like, what you're getting out of the Lions. Like Amon-Ra, 70 plus yards. Jared Goff's going to throw for 250 plus. And one of their running backs is going to make some plays, whether it's Gibbs or Montgomery. And that's exactly what you get. Defensively, it's always that's more the wild card on their team. And I'd say Baker kind of lit up he lit up that secondary, threw for I think 350 yards around.
It's not a great secondary.
Yeah, the secondary show that they're not banged up. They're just not that great. That's their weakness. Thankfully, 49ers, their strongest suit, I'd say it's running the ball. So they got that going for them at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'll let you talk. But that's kind of my first thought.
Well, you might agree with this. The 49ers game against the Packers, I'm not saying I think worse of the 49ers. It doesn't give me more confidence.
Yeah.
In the 49ers, right? Like the Packers dropped the easy interception in the second half, right? Brock Purdy threw it to one of their linebackers. The guy just dropped it, right? Like I didn't think, and obviously Jordan Love makes that boneheaded play at the end. I think we got to talk about before they missed that kick to go up. They would have went up 7. So they would have went up 24-17 before, and then the 49ers with the ball, and only you're up 7, and the 49ers have to go score to tie the game instead of going to score a touchdown to go win the game to make it 24-21. And obviously Green Bay had a chance at the end to tie it, and they didn't, right? But you make that kick, you go up 24-17. You got to go make the 49ers go win, just tie the game, right? And it could have been a different outcome, right? I thought the 49ers played a little scared, and I also thought
conservative.
They didn't really unleash Brock Purdy. The problem is in this type of games, you kind of have to. Eventually it catches up to you where you just start handing the ball off over and over again, and it doesn't always work. It just becomes too predictable. Even though CMC was great, the status of Deebo Samuel is obviously up in the air, and that's obviously a huge threat to their team. One of their best weapons. He obviously does a lot in the run game as well as in the pass game as well. But look, I'm really not moved by the Lions. You were perfect. You put it perfectly. The Lions kind of do everything they're supposed to.
Yeah.
They've taken care of business. They were favored against the Rams. They took care of business. They won. They won by 1, right? They won by 1 that game.
They had a chance to lose.
Yes. They took care of the Buccaneers. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I picked the Buccaneers. That was kind of just more of a fun pick. The Buccaneers are not a really good team.
Yeah.
They caught kind of fire, lightning in a bottle towards the end of the year and snuck in and then upset the Eagles, obviously, in the wild card round. And that also could show where the Eagles are at the moment. The Lions secondary is very, very questionable, but they got weapons, man. On the offensive side of the ball, Goff's playing really good. St. Brown's great. Sam Laporta's great, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and not even as well as David Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs is turning into all of a sudden a stud at the moment. He's obviously at the exact right time. I don't have any I'm not loving both of these teams at the moment, right?
I agree.
I don't think the 49ers are coming in playing their best ball, and I do think the Lions are playing really good football. It's just maybe not fully dominating, but maybe in the postseason that doesn't really matter if you win games. You're in the NFC Championship for a reason, or maybe the Lions are more of a feel-good story, and they've had maybe some of the easier playoff matchups than I guess other teams have had. Maybe, but which is not their fault. I really don't have a full grasp of this game. 7 points is a lot of points, in my opinion. It's if Purdy can make enough throws, because he wasn't great on Saturday night. He did enough. He got bailed out a couple of times, but he wasn't particularly great, in my opinion. And look, the weather was kind of a bit of a factor. The rain, the 49ers looked like they'd never seen rain in their life before. It kind of took them a little while. For the most part, Green Bay dominated this game. Green Bay was in control of this game, right? a bad kick.
They had their own destiny, kind of.
Yeah, a bad kick, a missed kick, and it flips the whole thing. You make that kick, and you and I could be talking about a Green Bay at Detroit NFC Championship game, which would be obviously insane. So I kind of lean toward, I'm not going to give my pick yet, but I kind of lean towards more the 49ers. I just think their defense is ferocious. I don't think that the Lions have in this playoffs have seen the type of defense they will see with the 49ers. I don't think the Eagles had that, and I definitely don't think the Buccaneers had that last week. I think with the linebacking core, with Nick Bosa can get after the pass rush, I think the 49ers have a really good defense. Jordan Love kind of struggled with some turnovers, but they were able to run the ball with Aaron Jones, so that's a recipe. 18 carries for 108 yards. You kind of have to lean on Gibbs and Montgomery. I do think this game is going to be very close, though.
I agree. And, I kind of just thought of this, like, very similar offenses, kind of Lions and 49ers. Like, you have Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, both great quarterbacks, more game manager style, good quarterbacks, game managers. They're not going to they might go off 1 or 2 games, they're not going to continuously go nuts and win you the game. Then you got a Lions, Amon-Ra, best playmaker on their team, and then you got Christian McCaffrey, which Christian McCaffrey's better, but you see what I'm saying? Like, that's their go-to playmaker, and those are the guys that
they have good skill. Both teams have good skill positions.
Yeah, but then, like, other than that, like, Gibbs is good, could go off one game. Like, he's coming into his own, but, like, he's not 100% there yet, at least yet. Like, you need someone outside of. I mean, actually, I don't even think you need someone outside of
Laporta.
Oh, Laporta. I forgot about Laporta.
You got Laporta and you got Laporta and Kittle. Like, it's very
similar.
It's a very similar makeup of a team.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say, like, the Lions, they went against the Eagles, the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two teams that just
didn't really run the ball.
Rams and Bucks. Those are two teams that didn't really run the ball against them. They haven't had a true rushing attack test.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, Kyron's been playing, had a really good season. The Rams were kind of throwing the ball the whole game, and Kyron, I mean, they don't have like I don't want to say they had a bad running game, but just at least that game, they weren't really rushing the ball well. I mean, you can credit that to Lions defense, but I really wouldn't. And then you got the Buccaneers with Rashad White, who's good, but like, Buccaneers aren't a rushing team.
He only had 9 carries.
Yeah, exactly.
455 yards, though. So maybe they should
have teams that, I mean, the Eagles, they were playing down, so they were just throwing the ball. So now you come in San Francisco and you got to go against Christian McCaffrey with a team whose identity is, okay, let's take it out of our quarterback's hands, pressure out of his hands a little bit, get our best player of the ball, Christian McCaffrey. So that's going to be interesting to see how they, attack that situation, and if they could get the stops that they need, or McCaffrey's going to come out and kind of, like I said, punch him in the mouth early kind of thing. So I'd be interested to see how that defensive line or defense kind of shapes up in that aspect.
Yeah, they're, like you said, they're both really similar skill position-wise. Both have a really good tight end. Both have some good weapons. Both have a good running back. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's better than Jahmyr Gibbs, but the Lions have a 2-headed running back monster that they like. I think this game sets up, based off the Lions secondary, for the 49ers to have success through the air. If Debo plays, obviously with Brandon Ayuk and with George Kittle, who's having, I think, a very underrated year, probably not getting anywhere near the credit that he probably deserved this year. But can Brock Purdy take that? Right? Like, we've talked about that. And look, he didn't play great. And I know no turnovers, but 250 yards and a touchdown, 23 for 39. It didn't look crisp. It didn't look
had a turnover.
Yeah, should have had a turnover. It didn't look like into the end until he kind of got his footing. I thought the weather affected them in the rain. Looked at like I said, the 49ers never seen rain before. And look, Green Bay dominated that game. I do think the Lions offensively can have success against this 49ers defense. My biggest question is can the Lions secondary match up with these weapons? Because on paper, I don't think they can. The only thing that keeps them in the game could be that quarterback play by the 49ers. But in this type of game, I do think Brock Purdy is going to have open guys, and guys open down the seam, or guys open on the sideline, or George Kittle, or whoever it is, right? Is if Brock Purdy can make those throws, because I do think those throws are going to be there for the taking. because I don't trust this Lions secondary is close to abysmal in my opinion. It's a problem. And they faced Baker Mayfield, and I do think Brock Purdy's better than Baker, and I do think they have better weapons than the Buccaneers did. Look, I think this game is probably closer to like a 4-point or 5-point spread and then 7, in my opinion. I just don't know if the Lions might be not ready. They might not be ready for this.
Yeah.
I have no feel of this game at all. Trying to be honest with you, man. I got no feel of this game.
I'm kind of the same way. Like, it could go so, like,
Seven's
forward.
throwing me off, dude.
The only thing I have one feeling, and it's just that the 49ers at the end of the day could be a really good game. Just gonna be too much for the Lions. Like,
yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well.
They're gonna make more plays than the Lions are used to the other team making. Especially with the no, they didn't play the Eagles, Rams, and then Bucks. Like,
yeah,
you could go, but like, I just think the 49ers they're just too talented where they're not gonna have their best game, maybe, but they're just still gonna make more plays than the Lions are capable of coming back from.
I got a question for you before we get to our
game
picks. Are we buying too much into the 49ers struggle against the Green Bay Packers? Because that's what's throwing me off. Like, if they dominated that game, I wouldn't even have a question.
And I mean, while we're talking, I think we are buying in a little too much. We got to give props to the Packers.
Oh yeah,
killed the Cowboys. Came in like maybe they were just playing really good football.
Just took them too long. It took them to the
end.
And
we expected the 49ers to be up here and it's a 7-seed Packers. Like, you better blow them out.
But you and I, we laid out a recipe for
we did
for the Packers and Jordan Love to win that game, and they almost followed it. It's got to make a field goal kick.
So then I'll ask you another question. We kind of laid it out, like, make Purdy make plays and kind of stay within 10 points going into the half. 7-10 points.
They were winning.
Do you think the Lions can run that formula?
Because I think the Lions are a better team than Green Bay.
Okay.
I don't know if Jared Goff's playing better football than Jordan Love, but I like Detroit's weapons more than I like Green Bay's weapons. And I do think
the Lions formula is different because you can't force Purdy to make plays. I think it's because I think their secondary is just not good enough.
Yeah, I think Green Bay's secondary is pretty good.
Got to be
like, you can't because
put the ball in Purdy's hands. No, don't put. I don't even know.
Well, the problem is if you don't put the ball in Purdy's hand, the ball goes to CMC, and that's
they got to take the ball out of CMC. That's their formula.
Look, I think this is the type of game, JR, where time of possession is really huge. I think Detroit has to control the clock, right? Because if you limit the possessions of. And look, I know we don't want to give the ball to Purdy, but I'd rather Purdy throw the ball than have CMC dictate the game because I think you're going to lose that game. Your secondary is going to have to go make plays, but I do think if Detroit, like Green Bay did, Aaron Jones had over 100 yards. Detroit has Montgomery and they have Jahmyr Gibbs. If they can run the ball, slow it down, and then pick and choose when they take their shots to Laporta and St. Brown, I think they can win this game. Because I think they have the talent on offense to do that. The biggest question is if their secondary can make enough plays. Because the weapons on San Fran we all know are very good.
Yeah, and I think one last key that we haven't really touched on. Derek Goff can't move in the pocket, and you're going against that 49ers D line. Like, that could cause some. Yeah. Like, if he just keeps getting hit,
I think
that's going to cause some problems. But they got to get to him.
I think everything has to be quick.
Yeah.
I think everything has to be quick, short routes. I think
that's what they're known. That's their brand kind of thing.
Yeah, I think dictating the clock is huge for Detroit in this type of game.
I agree.
I think it's that type of game where they want to slow it down, kind of dictate the clock. And look, make Purdy go win the game for them. I know the Detroit Lions secondary isn't great, but if you can get in a situation where you can let Aiden Hutchinson just go run free on Brock Purdy, I think it becomes a little bit of a havoc. And you and I might be buying in too much into the 49ers struggles last week.
I think we are.
But Jared, they're a kick away. We gotta be honest with ourselves. They're a kick away from having to go tie a touchdown, having Purdy to go score a touchdown, which he did, which only ties the game. and Jordan Love can go win it with a field goal and probably doesn't make that throw. Like, it's a couple of ifs, but there are field goals away from being down 7 with 2 minutes left. Like, it's obviously NFL games we've witnessed are the slimmest of margins. I don't know if the 49ers can win that type of game if the Lions do that. So,
no, I agree. And I agree. I think we're buying too much into that game. Could have just been a bad off game for them. We'll see, against the Lions. But I think it's going to be fun. I think out of which game do you think is going to be like the most, like the best entertaining?
I think the first game is way better.
Really? I think so because of the names, but I think the second game is going to be better.
Really, I think the quarterback play in the first game is going to be fun to watch. I think the second game, the quarterback play is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be more team ball.
Yeah. Doesn't mean both. I think both games are closer than. Well, the Ravens 3-point spread, 3.5 is fine, but I do think the 7 points is a lot in San Fran. But they could win by a touchdown. I don't think they win by double digits. That's just my opinion.
I think they. Well, we'll get into that, but
okay, you started, man. What do you got? 49ers, Lions. What do we got?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go 49ers here, and I think they do cover that spread. I'll say it. Like, I just don't think the Lions are gonna just play well enough. I think the 49ers are just going to be good enough and just be better than the Lions. The Lions aren't there yet. They're young. They look really good. This is their chance, I guess, to make the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously they're in the championship, but they had just a great run, great matchups in the beginning. But I just don't trust that team to perform out of their shoes. And I feel like in this game, they're going to have to win this game. So I think 49ers are going to take care of business, whether it's McCaffrey or, an Ayuk or Debo game or Kittle. But they have so many options there. I think their defense is going to be the key in this game. They're going to get back to form.
I think the game is going to be closer than what you said. So I don't think at the moment, if the spread holds at 7, that San Fran covers. But I do think San Fran wins this game. And I might be buying into too much of the last game, but so be it, right? Like, that's the last thing we saw of them. And Green Bay maybe gave Detroit the recipe or the script, how to beat them. And maybe Detroit takes that. I think Detroit's run, I think they have the weapons to keep up with San Fran. I really do. I don't think they have the defense, especially in the back end, to keep up with San Fran. I think that's what costs them in the end. But I like Detroit to keep this game competitive, but I'm going to go with the 49ers in this one.
I feel bad. I guess at this point it doesn't matter, but I picked the 2 number 1 seeds.
I did too.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot if you picked the Chiefs or not, but yeah.
No, I thought you were going to go Chiefs.
I mean, at this point, you're in the championship game. They're going to win or they're not, So.
Yeah, okay. That is going to do it for us. As always, drop a comment. Who do you guys got? Ravens or Chiefs or Buccaneers? Not Buccaneers. I'm going to the Buccaneers. Ravens or Chiefs or Lions or the 49ers? Let us know in the comment section. And before we get out of here, JR, where can everyone follow us on social media?
Yeah, guys, on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Talking Sports ED. Hit us with the follow. Keep up to date with the stuff we're posting. We'd really appreciate it. Trying to grow on these platforms. And then, I'll mention sign up for Underdog Fantasy using promo code TSP to receive 100% deposit match. Sit on your couch, watch these championship games, get some parlays, make it fun, make it interesting. Promo code TSP for 100% match deposit on Underdog Fantasy.
Yep. And as always, subscribe, like, and comment if you're an Apple Podcast or Spotify. Follow the show, write a review, give us 5 stars, all that kind of fun stuff. We appreciate everyone that listened there. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. And thank you for subscribing. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. We'll be back. We're probably I haven't talked to Jared about this. We might take next week off because wait for this. Obviously, this will be between the championship and the Super Bowl. Oh, yeah, we're going to break down the Pro Bowl. But we'll see you guys. The next time we'll be seeing you guys will be the Super Bowl preview between 2 of these teams we just talked about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend of championship football in the National Football League. Until next time, this was the Talking Sports Podcast, and thank you.